Hello, my name is Jonas, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to build this Spotify music player modal animation in Figma. But before we jump into Figma, I will just highlight some of the details from this prototype before we begin. So as you can see, this music player slab thing fades away when we click on it, and it transitions to this player card element, modal element, whatever you want to call it. And also the tab bar changes from this transparent to this solid one and will animate out of the screen. And also the status bar of the phone will animate away and back when you dismiss the modal, just like in real Spotify app. Alright, so let's first go over the Figma setup that I have prepared here for the tutorial. So here we have the home screen that is displaying in the prototype on the right currently. And then this is just for reference to get the full screen height. This will make more sense in a second once we start building the actual overlay and everything that goes into it. And then here I have just a couple of like component setup to be able to easily build all the necessary like parts of the prototype. And why do I have these two different variations of the full screen player? Well, this is the player type that you see in Spotify when you expand the player, which is this just straight line. And then this rounded one is the type of player or the corners you see when you dismiss the full screen player. It's a really small detail, but I think it's a really cool detail, and I want to recreate it in here also. And then here is just some basic iOS system UI parts, and then the individual pieces for the actual collapsed player, or like the player and the tab bar section of the screen. So let's begin building this thing. Before we start, you may have noticed that there are no home indicator or the tab bars here or the status bar here. And that is because all of that will be going into the overlay. And oh yeah, all of this will be built inside an overlay, because otherwise we can't do the animations that we want to build to the prototype. So everything goes within an overlay, and this is a bit more complex, but I think you can all still follow along and replicate this in your own prototypes. But without further ado, let's just begin building this. And oops, I did not meant to click F there. Let's come here and begin by just creating another screen here, like so. And oh yeah, these are just a reference for me to easily set these rulers here, so I don't have to guess the height of the collapsed player area or anything. So it's just prepared for me to easily start building it, everything. And I don't want to move that. Give me the frame, not the ruler. Thank you. All right. So first step, we will create a new frame here, and we'll rename this to be player. And this is the collapsed state. And we can remove the background from here and then bring in the tab bar scrim here. And oh, and by the way, if you don't know how I copy this, I just hold down Option on Mac and then click and drag. So that's how you can copy an element inside the Figma file. And now we're going to just drop this in here, and then actually, well, we need to bring in all of these elements. So let's next bring the tab bar and align it to the bottom. Actually, not tab bar, the home indicator, and then the tab bar, like so. And if I'm correct, this should be aligned so that the text is where the ruler goes, right there. And then we need the music player slab. Let's bring it right here. and center it not there but there. And then finally we'll bring in the status bar. This is, oops, don't need to copy it again. This is like where you should pay attention a bit, because you want to drag it inside this frame, but then you want to, actually first you want to disable the clip content of this frame here. So you want to make sure that you keep it inside the frame. So just start moving it with the arrow keys. So, or alternatively, you can just move it up to be at the height of the screen top. And then if it comes out of the frame like this, just make sure you drag it back into the player collapsed frame, like so. And then we will also need to bring in this tab bar background solid, and also make sure the layer ordering is correct. So these tab bar, background screen, and solid should be at the bottom, and then you want to have the home indicator and the tab bar there, and then the slab. And well, this doesn't really matter because it's not overlapping any of these. And then we want to make the solid tab bar background be fully transparent. And there's a shortcut that you can just double tap the 0 number key on your keyboard to switch between the opacity. So here, now I click 0 again, it goes to 100%, and then when you double tap, it goes to 0, and that's what we want. And then finally, we want to bring in this player card, like so, and we can just align it there, and again, bring it actually behind everything else, and set it to be transparent, so double tap 0. Okay, and now we can copy this whole frame, and let's just move it here, put like 40 pixels apart, and then we'll rename this to be expand start, like this. And here all we need to do is just make the music player slab to be transparent, and then switch, well, I'll come here, switch the background screen to be transparent, and change the solid to be, goddammit, opacity 100 again. And then also do the same for the player, so it's visible again. And at this point, you can also move the status bar up above the like screen top point, and just move it there, like so. And then the next step is to copy this again, and let's align it like that. But now we want to move this full screen player expand to be like this, and all I did here was I aligned it to the bottom of this frame, which is the shortcut. The shortcut is option S, or you can just use the align bottom here to do the same, like so. And then we want to select the tab bar and the solid. You can actually move these to be closer. So these two, tab bar and tab bar solid, and just move them to the bottom of the screen, like so. And then we can copy this again, and this time we are going to change the frame size here to be actually full screen, and I'll explain this in a moment why we need to do this. But first, let's collapse these other frames and select this. Oops. Select this, actually select this, and then we can rename this to, actually, did we forgot to rename this. Let's this is, come on, expand end. And then this is not expand anymore, but it's actually the collapse start state. All right, so now that we have this third frame here, we can select all of these layers here and just momentarily set them to be like bottom aligned to this frame. So now we can easily extend this frame height to be the full screen height, actually. And then again, select all of these and switch it back to top aligned because it makes more sense to have them top aligned. We just need to put them to bottom aligned so we can extend the frame without messing the positioning of everything. All right, so we don't actually need to do anything else on this frame because we just want it to be full screen, but otherwise exactly the same as this previous expand end state. And now once again, we'll copy this and align it there. And then this is going to be the collapse. God damn it. Let me choose this. It's not collapse start, it's collapse end, like so. And then we just kind of do the reverse and go back to this side here. So choose the full screen player, the element, and move it down to be, well, actually I can just drag it down and it should be where? It should be here. So it's at the same position here. And then again, just bring these back up like so and align it to this screen bottom ruler here. Like so. And then I'm just thinking, do we want to bring this? Yeah, actually, yeah, we want to bring this in also, the status bar. So it will animate back into the view when you like dismiss the full model. And then finally we copy this one last time. And this time, well, we'll call it just end final, for example. And then in this state, we want to have the full screen player be transparent again. So double click 0. And then we want to again switch the background solid to be transparent and bring back the scrim like so. And actually make sure the tab bar is above that. Actually, I don't know if it's gonna create problems that it's not the order changed. Well, we'll see if it has any effect. And oh yeah, also the music player slab should be brought back to view like so. And now we should have all the frames that we need to begin connecting the prototype. Okay, so now we can actually start connecting the real prototype. And we will begin by selecting the home screen and going to the prototype tab here and making the first connection just from the complete home screen frame to the player collapsed frame here. And this is really important here. Well, actually, this is not that important yet. The next step is more important, but we will be opening an overlay and not on tab, but after delay, and the delay will be like 0, which is, well, 1, which is immediately. And then it's going to be bottom, center, and instant. And as you can see, now we can see it here in the prototype screen here. And I think now is a good point to illustrate the fact that when you have overlays open, and if it covers the whole screen, you can't interact with anything that is below the not prototype, but the overlay. So that's the reason why we make the the overlay not full screen, because if this was full screen, you can't scroll or do anything below the overlay. So that's why we will we make the overlay just be this size, and then just have this status bar floating at the correct height or position here at the top. But anyway, let's continue connecting everything. And the next connection will be to the music player slab. Let me actually collapse the unnecessary stuff here quickly, like so. So here, let's select the music player slab and create a connection to the next frame. And this is the important part. You want to use the swap overlay interaction type. And another quirk here is that you don't want to use on tab, you actually want to use touch down to make it transition into this one here. And you want to be using smart animate as the animation type. So let's actually see if it works. Let's make this a bit bigger, like so. And when we just go here and click down, it goes into this state here. But we also want it to come back if we don't actually do anything. So then here, from this next frame, we want to create another connection that goes back to the previous one. And again, it's going to be swap overlay, and it's going to be after delay. And the delay is going to be like 100 milliseconds here, and it will be smart animate. Because why the delay? Because if it's 0, it will just flicker immediately back and forth. And let's restart the prototype, which you can do by clicking R or clicking here. So let's see. Now it will come back here if we don't actually drag the model up. And then the next step is to actually create the drag connection that will enable us to drag the player to this state. And here's another important step. Make sure to select the full screen player from this frame and not just this frame, because it won't work otherwise. And once you have this selected, create a connection to the second frame here, and then it's going to be on drag, and again swap overlay, smart animate, and I think 300 milliseconds is okay, but you can play around with these values to see what looks good for you. And let's see if it works. So when we click here and start dragging, we will get to this state here. And then here's yet another, like, it's good to know thing, that now that we are here, the actual overlay frame size is still just this height here. So it will end here. And this means that it will pass all the interactions to the actual like layer behind it, which is this home screen here. So you can't see it, but we can still scroll it here. So we don't want that. And this means that all the interactions we want to build have to happen within this area. So to make this work properly, we need to create this like duplicate like design here, but with just a different frame size here. So then from this expand end, we want to create a connection to the collapse start, which is full screen. The actual frame is full screen. And again, it's going to be swap overlay, but this time the actual interaction type will be after delay, and that's going to be 0 or 1 in this case. And it can be instant. We don't need any animations because it's literally just a copy of the previous one. And let's again restart the prototype and see everything still works. Okay, cool. And now again, from the collapse start frame, let's choose the full screen player, because we need to attach the interaction to the actual element that is moving. Because if we just connect it to the frame, like this frame here, it doesn't really work because it doesn't know which direction the drag is going to happen. But if you connect it to the actual element, which is then like goes from here to here between the frames, Figma then knows that, hey, this drag should happen down or to sides if it moves this way. So that's why it's important to connect the interaction like just connect the interaction into the correct layer. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And here it's the full screen player layer. And again, the interaction is on drag and the type is swap overlay. And this time we want to smart animate, and I think this is okay. And let's see if it works. We can now drag down, and now we are back to this. All right, and then all we need to do is lastly connect this here, and it's going to be after delay, immediately, and smart animate. And I think we need to restart it to make it work. Okay, so we can drag up, we can drag down, and whoops. Okay, yeah, here. I didn't connect it correctly. So this is what happens if you don't swap the overlay but instead use the navigate to. So make sure all of these steps are with the swap overlay once you have opened the overlay initially here. Okay, so let's say if it now works, it should be right. And let's restart the prototype. Like so, we can drag up, we can drag down. Okay, it looks good. But as you can see, you can't scroll the content anymore because now we are at this frame, which is still taking up the whole screen. And that's why we need to essentially duplicate these steps, because we need to have these full screen frames to allow to build the interactions correctly, and then to have these like smaller frames to allow to be able to interact with the real prototype underneath. And to make this fully work, all we need to do is just go to the player collapse final and create a connection back to the initial overlay screen. So it's going to be again swap overlay. It's going to happen after delay, and the delay is going to be 0, and it should be instant. This is important to make it instant because the frame size changes between these overlays, and if you try to animate those, well, weird things will happen. So we need to use the instant like animation type here. So again, we need to restart the prototype. We can scroll now, looking good. We can drag up, we can drag down, and we can scroll again. I forgot to do one thing, and that's that this should be, instead of the expand variation, this should be the collapse variation, which is the rounded corners when you are dismissing the player. And then also change it here on the collapse end state, like so. And then also here, because otherwise it's gonna flicker. Where is it? Not there. Give me this. There. There. Make it collapse. Even though you can't see it here, but I think it's gonna flicker if it changes here. Anyway, let's see if it works. We can pull up. It was straight, and when we pull down, it's this rounded. And yeah, it works. Okay, cool. I still need to give you a quick disclaimer about using this technique in your prototypes. So while it may seem that you can interact fully with the underlying prototype or the design behind this overlay, well, you are limited to scrolling. So you can only scroll vertically and horizontally here. But if you connect any other like interactions to this design, you cannot interact with those as long as the overlay is open. So for example, here, if we connect this element to just go here on tab, and then let's quickly make it go back when we click here. So as you can see, we cannot click this as long as this overlay is open. We can only open this and close it and scroll. But if we come here and make the overlay close when we click outside, like this, it's gone. But now we can navigate to somewhere else. But yeah, as you can see, it's a drawback. So because of this, I would really recommend that you create a separate prototype flow for things like this to showcase like this like specific animation and functionality of this kind of an modal opening, and then have a separate prototype completely for your like main navigation, and where you have all the screens and other stuff, which then you would have probably like some really simple animation to open and close the modal, and then have this other specialized prototype to showcase this, basically. Alright, thanks for watching this video, I hope you really liked it, and if yes, please leave a like down below and also consider subscribing. And if there are any other real-world applications that you would like to see me recreate in Figma, leave those in the comment section down below. But I hope you have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.